Good morning, everybody. Turn around to face you here. Let me get the stage cleared a bit. How's everybody doing? You enjoying the cooler weather? Fall has finally arrived. I know I'm extremely happy. After wondering whether a human being could actually melt from heat this summer. Today we're going to continue the series, The Ultimate Love Letter. And this will run the next 2 weeks and wrap up here. Took a brief intermission last week, but did you guys enjoy the message, those of you that were here? I mean, that was great. And unfortunately, I know many of you didn't stay for the afternoon session, but that was awesome. In fact, while both messages were great, I kind of wished he would have flipped those, just because the afternoon session had such relevance to what we're going through. So if you missed that, the audio is available. I'm not 100% sure if the audio is up on the website or it's something you've got to see one of us about to get, but we did do an audio recording of that afternoon session, and it was fantastic. It's short and sweet, so it's not going to take up a lot of your time, but you definitely want to listen to that. So now, let's recap, because I know I see some new faces, people that missed a couple weeks ago when we started this series. So what I want to talk about is love. God's love for us, our love for Him, and then our love for each other. But we began the journey by saying, what is love? Because it's so easy to get an idea of what love is and the thing we know, but we're bombarded with so much about love and so many different types. So we talked about the different types of love. If you're not sure why a cheeseburger is up there for that, I encourage you to go back and review the video on the Facebook page. Talked about the different types of love. We talked about what defines Jesus' love, that it's persistent, it's vulnerable, it's enduring, and it's even reckless. So now today, we're going to talk about love is supreme, because this is another one that we can miss a bit. We hear it so often. If you haven't noticed the running theme in the Bible, love, but we don't always give love its proper place. We've got all these other things we're going through, all these other things that we think about, other things we review, and so we sometimes miss what can be the most important thing. When I was researching this series, I came across this story from Dwight Moody. You don't know, a famous evangelist, famous preacher in the 1800s, and he relates this story. Show me a church where there's love, and I will show you a church that is a power in the community. In Chicago a few years ago, a little boy attended a Sunday school I know of. When his parents moved to another part of the city, the little fellow still attended the same Sunday school, although it meant a long, tiresome walk each way. A friend asked him why he went so far and told him there were plenty of others that were just as good, that were a lot closer to his home. They may be good for others, but not for me, was his reply. Why not, she asked. Because they love a fellow over there, he replied. If only we could make the world believe that we love them, there would be fewer empty churches, and a smaller proportion of our population would never darken a church door. Let love replace duty in our relations, and the world will soon be evangelized. So that's the power of love, but let me relate to you a story from my own life. For those of you that don't know, my parents converted to Adventism when I was 5 and attended various Adventist churches throughout the country as we moved around. And we were Adventists until I was a teenager. And then we were in the unfortunate position of the only Adventist church in town, having probably an actual attendance of about 12 and nobody under the age of 70. And I'm not here to knock anybody that's older, It's just these people very much acted like they were 100. So you can imagine that presented some difficulty. We ended up attending a Baptist church for a bit. But then my faith became a little bit sporadic. So during college, I would attend another Baptist church off and on, but it wasn't anything that I gave a huge amount of thought to. But I find myself after college up in Ohio at this evangelical church, and I'd gotten pretty involved. I was helping to lead one of the Bible study groups, and I was also on the pastor search committee. And before anybody gets any ideas, I will never serve on another pastor search committee. That was an interesting experience. But it's during this time where the Lord's deepening His relationship with me that my parents come and say that there's a church up in Michigan that's pastored now by a friend of ours who was a real estate agent, we knew him, at the Burlington church. And that they're having some missionaries come and speak. And so would I be interested in joining them? Well, at that time, I was pretty much of the mind that I was never going to darken the door of another Adventist church. That was behind me. I didn't want to relive it, and that was not going to be happening. So I don't remember how it ended up that I accompanied them on that journey about an hour and a half north one Sabbath morning. But we got there to the church. It was a church plant, very much like this one, not quite as big, but they met at another church's facility on Sabbath mornings. And I was struck when I got in of how warmly I was greeted. People asking what I was, where I was from, and genuinely seemed interested in me, and not so that they could assess whether I was eating pork or keeping the Sabbath or anything like that, but genuinely interested in me. So the next week rolls around. And I believe I took a few years off my parents' lives when they asked where I was going so early on a Saturday morning. And I said, oh, well, to the church in Michigan. And over the next few weeks, maybe months, I continued to attend there pretty regularly, and then I'd go to my other church on Sunday mornings. Till finally the Lord said, why don't we stop the Sunday church and just go to this one? So that was where I attended, and I attended because I enjoyed the people, because, yes, I got fed, but there were a loving set of people there. But it was an hour and a half drive each way, usually. Now, I could cut it to an hour and 10 minutes if the weather was good and I didn't obey any speed limits. But I had to take back roads at some point to get there still, and so, this is going to surprise you, but Northwest Ohio and Michigan in the winter, you have some snow problems. So it wasn't something I could always do. In fact, sometimes it was about an hour and 45 to get up there. So I enjoyed my time. The other issue was at the time, Monday through Thursday, I was working until about 7:30 every night. So I couldn't do anything during the week to get up there if they had any sort of events, Bible studies, evangelism series, anything like that. So I thought, well, you know what, one Sabbath, I'm going to visit a church on my way. So I stopped at the Toledo Seventh-day Adventist Church, and if you haven't been to that church, it's one of probably the most beautiful church I've ever been inside of. The way that it's set up is that they've got just beautiful glass right behind the pulpit area here, and the sun streams in on a sunny morning. Now it's Northwest Ohio, so that happens like 20 days a year, but it's there. Well, I walk in, and I even sit up near the front, and I exit after the service. Not a single soul spoke to me. Just when I said, well, I guess I'm still going to be making a long drive. But that's the power that love can have. It can keep you coming back and going quite a bit further than you normally would. And for all our evangelistic efforts, we've got all the prophecy seminars. As a matter of fact, I just got an idea for maybe some inflatable beasts or something people could put up along to attract people. But you've got that, and you've got outreach efforts and all these things, but if you don't have the love behind it, you're not going to meet with any success. Love itself is the great evangelistic tool. So we're going to look at some verses that talk about this. Now, I've got quite a bit to read through in terms of verses. I don't want to throw it all up on the screen here. So if you want to follow along with me, we're going to begin in an unsurprising area of the Bible, 1 Corinthians 13. So if you have your Bible with you, you want to get that out and follow along with me, that'll be great. I'll have some highlights up here on the screen as well. But I don't want to put everything up and crowd it and be having to try to go through slides too quickly. 1 Corinthians 13. It's a little bit after the Gospels in your Bible. If you hit 2 Corinthians, you've gone too far. So I'll give you just a minute to find that, but that's where we're going to begin. And then we're going to go into 1 John, because John had quite a bit to say about this love thing as well. So join me there, 1 Corinthians 13. If I speak in tongues of mortals and of angels, but do not have love, I'm a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. And if I have prophetic powers and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have faith so as to remove mountains, but do not have love, I am nothing. If I give away all my possessions, and if I hand over my body so that I may boast, but do not have love, I gain nothing. Now, before we continue, those are really great things that he's doing, right? I mean, let's be clear. Wouldn't you like to have prophetic powers? Wouldn't you like to be able to say that I gave all my possessions and I even gave up, sacrificed my life? But if love's missing, it didn't have any benefit. That is the anchor that has to be there. So continuing, the characteristics of love. In case you wonder where I pulled these from a couple weeks ago, it wasn't just out of thin air, of course. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love is not envious or boastful or arrogant or rude. It doesn't insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It doesn't rejoice in wrongdoing, but it rejoices in the truth. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never ends. But as for prophecies, they will come to an end. As for tongues, they will cease. As for knowledge, it will come to an end. For we know only in part, and we prophesy only in part. But when the complete comes, the partial will come to an end. When I was a child, I spoke like a child. I thought like a child. And I reasoned like a child. But when I became an adult, I put an end to childish ways. For now we see in a mirror dimly, but then we will see face to face. Now I know only in part, then I will know fully, even as I have been fully known. And now faith, hope, and love abide, these three. But the greatest of these is love. So notice some of those characteristics. Patient, kind. It's not arrogant or rude. It doesn't insist on its own way. And it bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, and endures all things. And the most important thing, love never ends. And then Paul goes in to talk about why love is supreme there. Because prophecy is great for now, but when we're in heaven, we won't need that. Tongues are great for now, but when we're in heaven, we won't need that either. But love's not going anywhere. God is love. It can't go anywhere by definition. And so it's the most important thing. If we don't build on this, we've got some major issues. This is it. This is the most important thing. So now we're going to look at 1 John. I'm going to begin in chapter 3 if you want to go ahead and start turning there. But these are some verses that will probably hit you the same way they hit me, because when I was reading through this in preparation, Like, oh God, I kind of like to leave that one out. That one hits a little close to home. Kind of feeling a little convicted here. But join me there. 1 John chapter 3. This is the longest section here, verses 11 through 20. The rest are shorter, but you're going to notice a theme emerging. For this is the message you've heard from the beginning, that we should love one another. We must not be like Cain, who was from the evil one and murdered his brother. And why did he murder? Because his own deeds were evil and his brother's righteous. Do not be astonished, brothers and sisters, that the world hates you. We know that we have passed from death to life because we love one another. Whoever does not love abides in death. All who hate a brother or sister are murderers. And you know that murderers do not have eternal life abiding in them. We know love by this, that he laid down his life for us, and we ought to lay down our lives for one another. Pretty harsh, right? Anyone who hates a brother or sister is a murderer, and whoever does not love abides in death. So I'll just make it abundantly clear. If we don't have this love, we're not getting to heaven. We're going to the other place, the lake of fire, the place that, for some of you who are cold today, may seem like sweet relief, but it's a little too hot for continuing. Let's continue these verses. How does God's love abide in anyone who has the world's goods and sees a brother or sister in need and yet refuses help? Little children, let us love, not in word or speech, but in truth and action. And by this we will know that we are from the truth, and will reassure our hearts before Him whenever our hearts condemn us. For God is greater than our hearts and knows everything. Truth and action. That hit me. And of course, the beginning part of that. How does God's love abide in anyone who has the world's goods and sees a brother or sister in need and yet refuses help? We look at Jesus' love when He was here. We have that model of action. He didn't just say, oh, I hope you feel better. He healed. He didn't just say, oh, they're hungry. Well, hopefully they'll find a meal at the McDonald's down the road. He provided a meal for them. This is a love of action. It's not a love that's subject to your feelings. It's a love that is actually tangible, that people can point to. So when they say, well, how do you know he or she's loving? They're going to have examples to give. It's this persistent love that continues despite rejections. It doesn't write people off. It doesn't say, well, that's it. I tried once. That's all I needed. It is a love that is so much different from what we see portrayed everywhere else as love. Love that's fickle, maybe. Love that is only love when it's, I'm getting something out of it, when I'm feeling some sort of fulfillment. It's a love that gives and gives. Now, let's continue in 1 John here. This time we're going to go to chapter 4. I'm going to begin in verse 7. Beloved, let us love one another because love is from God. Everyone who loves is born of God and knows God. Whoever does not love does not know God, for God is love. God's love was revealed among us in this way. God sent His only Son in the world so that we might live through Him. In this love, not that we loved God, but that He loved us and sent His Son to be the atoning sacrifice for our sins. Paul says that while we were enemies, still sinners, Christ died for us. Beloved, since God loved us so much, we also ought to love one another. No one has ever seen God. If we love one another, God lives in us, and His love is perfected in us. Now, see, this is the part that can make us a little bit uncomfortable. Because it can be easy sometimes to talk about God's love for us, because that is a love that continues. It's a love that we're freely given. We didn't do anything to deserve it. But our responsibility is not to hoard that love, but to share it. And that's where it gets a little tough. Because then you're like, wait, I gotta give that love to Joe? Joe who constantly is rude to me? Joe who constantly makes fun of me? Joe who just constantly, anytime I try to have any sort of interaction with him, it leaves me feeling sick to my stomach. That's what I'm supposed to do? That's who I'm supposed to love? But absolutely. So let's continue. Still in chapter, did I go too far? While we figure that out, I'll go ahead and begin here in chapter 4. And this time I'm looking at verses 19 through 21. Thank you, Luke. Got a little happy with the clicker, apparently. We love because he first loved us. Those who say, I love God, and hate their brothers or sisters are liars. For those who do not love a brother or sister whom they have seen cannot love God whom they have not seen. The commandment we have from him is this: those who love God must love their brothers and sisters also. Noticing the thing that we can't be bitter or angry at those around us and say we've got love. And this love is critical. It is the foundation. As Paul said, if we don't have this, we don't have it. We've got some significant problems. So, 1 John 5, 2 through 3, we're going to wrap this up here. By this we know that we love the children of God. We love God and obey his commandments. For the love of God is this, that we obey his commandments. And his commandments are not burdensome. I promise next week's sermon will be a little bit happier, but we have this awesome gift of God's love for us. But too often in the church, we fall down and we allow the basic emotions, vices of the world to intrude. And so church becomes a place like any other. Have you ever visited, I know probably this hasn't happened to many of you, but have you ever visited a church that isn't loving? Because I've walked into a few, and you just sense it. You know, they talk about the coldness, but in an unloving church, you can sense that coldness. It's like people are staring daggers at you, and you're just ready to get out. And too often we spend all this time on evangelism and outreach, but we miss the heart of it. We say we don't get results and we're not sure why. But it's because I've got a grudge against somebody. I haven't forgiven somebody for something, for the way they treated me weeks ago. I let that fester. Or I'm just upset because I feel I'm not getting my due. It becomes all about me, instead of the other person. And like we talked about 2 weeks ago, thinking of others as better than ourselves is really where it begins. Got this love that God said, this is what sums up the commandments. Loving God with all your heart, soul, and mind. Loving your neighbor as yourself. So before we close, I'm going to do something that I promise you is just as awkward for me as it's going to be for you guys potentially, but we're going to have about a minute of silence. And I just want you to think, is there something God's telling me to do? Is there somebody I need to reconcile with? Because if you don't get that sorted out, you're going to miss out. There's no two ways about it. This blunt words that we read are there for a very specific reason. So we can't misinterpret. We can't say, oh, maybe hate, I don't hate anybody. Matter of fact, there's a song that goes, well, hate is a strong word, but I really, really, really don't like you. And that's often when we try to justify it. But if we hold a grudge, we hate. So, if you want to bow your heads, that's fine. Keep your eyes open. I'm going to start my watch here, look at the time, give you about a minute and a half, and we're just going to sit here and let the Lord speak to each of us. If you're looking for an opportunity to demonstrate this love, it just so happens, completely coincidentally, I do promise in this case, that we've got our feeding at the shelter tonight. Mark's going to have a few more words about that in announcements, but I hope that you'll consider coming out for that. We always need all the help we can get. If you have any questions, you can see Roy Foster. If Roy's here, I'll ask him to stand. But if not, up there he is, right in the back. So see Roy for that. I know they always need some help. It'll be a great experience, a great ministry opportunity. Got to wave over to the camera, wave to Matt like I promised him I would, and let you know that next week we'll be wrapping up this series with another great topic. In this case, we're going to be talking about love winning. Because it's so easy to look, and especially in this world, some people say, oh, the way to get ahead is to just take charge and push forward and not be worried about people's feelings and things. But we're going to see that love ultimately does triumph. So I hope you'll be back next week for that. Would you bow your heads with me as we have a quick prayer? Dear Lord, your love is so awesome. May we, your children, by your grace, be able to share this with others freely. And we pray. Amen.